Hi, it's Karen with RT Systems. We're going to talk today about the FTX1. I'm going to try to help you understand repeater shifts. In the programmer, it is offset direction. In this radio, you have ARS, simplex, which really doesn't matter, so I'm not going to talk about it since it doesn't have an offset. You have minus, plus, and then you have split. I'm going to talk about a lot of things in this video because there are a lot of moving parts that come together to make all this work in the radio. Let's start with ARS. ARS is dependent on the country of radio. You see the country of radio screen. These are the offsets. These offsets are programmed in the radio. You cannot see them. You cannot get to them. You cannot change them. They are pre-programmed from the factory. By selecting your radio, the programmer will use the values shown to help set up channels in the programmer. In your normal UHF VHF radio, all of this is handled very differently. You could put a different offset frequency value in every channel if you wanted to. Well, the FTX1 is an HF radio with VHF, UHF repeater operations added on. You do not have the ability to have varying offsets for different memory channels in the same band and use plus and minus. Hey, it can still be done. You're just not going to use plus or minus or ARS. Look at this carefully. Consider this when you're putting things in. You'll be able to make better decisions for your repeaters. That was ARS, automatic repeater shift. This is plus and minus. In the settings, that was settings, radio menu settings, radio settings, repeater shift for 10 meters, 6 meters, 2 meters, and 440. This is the one value that the radio has available for each of those bands for plus or minus offset. If I change this to 7.0, let's say, every memory channel that is set to plus or minus will now use 700 kilohertz instead of 600 kilohertz. You won't be hitting those repeaters any longer just because you have one that's an oddball. But the programmer will help. Everything you already have in at 600 kilohertz plus or minus will become splits. Anything new you put in will go in with the 700 kilohertz offset. Everything will still work when you get it to the radio. We're going to do a repeater book search, and we're going to do Portland, Oregon, because I pulled this a minute ago, and it's got some really good examples in it. 10 meters, 6 meters, 2 meters, 440 FM. And I'm going to sort by frequency. So let's create this file. 10 meters at 100 kilohertz. I have an offset frequency here of 1.7 megs, and it marked it minus. That's what the program's going to do with the information that comes in from repeater book. Let me show you what happens. Communications and send data to radio. Turn the radio off and back on and tell it okay. 2968, 2968, and I have a minus here, and I have a minus here. There we go. There's channel 2. I have a minus here, and I have a minus here, but I've got this funny looking plus minus up here. I wonder what that is. And we go to the next one, and the next one, and the next one. And they all have that funny little plus minus. And now I'm on a 2 meter, and I have a minus. I have a minus. What's going on in the radio? We're going to do File New, and we're going to move it to a new vertical tab group so you can see it. This is my original. This is what I sent to the radio. Let's see what the radio did with it. Communications, get data from radio. Interesting. 100 kilohertz minus, but that says ARS. Okay, it says ARS. And the radio is going to use 100 kilohertz offset because I am in the 10 meter band. All of these became splits. They did, huh? Well, considering they don't use 500 kilohertz from here, they can't be ARS. They don't use 500 kilohertz from the offset in the radio. Got to do something with it to accommodate that 1.7 meg split. So it does that, makes it a split. The radio now will concentrate on using the receive and transmit frequencies and not calculate the transmit frequency based on the receive frequency and the offset. Just another function of the radio, and it gets the job done. This 600 kilohertz remained a minus. We can only figure that in this table, their frequency range is something not quite what we expect. But hey, minus at 600 kilohertz will work just as well as ARS and 600 kilohertz. Let's go on down to my 440s, and they're all set to ARS, although they were set to plus and minus when I sent them to the radio. What are these doing? Let's look at the radio for a minute. And I'm going to go to channel 45. I'm on channel 45, 400, 440, 300, 445, 300. It's doing exactly what I want it to, set to ARS, as it would if I set it to plus. Matter of fact, it shows you a little plus right here, although it is ARS. Do not let this throw you off. I realize it was different when it read it in from the radio. So now let's go back down to channel 2, those that it turned into splits. Here's one. How about channel 2? Okay. 52.83, and I expect it to be 51.13. Look at the radio. 52.83, 51.13. Pretty as you please, although it's a split. They all accomplish the same goal. They just call it a little different. Use different pieces to put it together, but they get it done, and you'll be talking to those repeaters all you want. I hope all this information helps you understand this radio and be more comfortable working with it as you experiment with both VHF, UHF, and HF bands. It's quite a little radio. So this is Karen, and remember, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. 73s.